This is a good one for you Scrum Masters. Stay with this one. You'll learn something, and this is going to happen to you too. But it's also good for product owners and project managers. This is when a sprint review goes wrong, horribly wrong. Sometimes this can happen because it's a hardware issue. You're getting ready to demo your product. Sometimes we had one where a tiny bit of code was added at the last minute. Everybody thought it was fine. The Scrum team is supposed to be self-managing, and they let this go. It was one of those things where you feel kind of bad because everybody was excited. This is going to be a really good review. And if we add this one little thing at the end here, it makes this look a little better or behave a little better. It's nothing. And it gets done. And then it falls apart on you. So you're at the conference room, and in this case, the programmers were off to the side, furiously trying to get this fixed. They asked us to stall. Yeah, we can get this fixed in just a minute or two. It was, we pulled in we were using TFS at the time. We pulled it in, got the change, still didn't work. So there's nothing wrong with delaying and trying to stall for a few minutes, but you can't do it forever. And this is one also where I wasn't really sure what was going on, what the problem was in the code. I trusted him that it would be just a minute or two. And so I stalled for a few seconds. And what I should have done is said, hey, I think what we have here is a little bit of a hardware problem. They should have this up and running in just a minute. And then I went in, because you're always going to start off with a little narrative. This is what we worked on this last sprint. This is what we're going to show you. We've been in tests for this for about 2-3 days now. It does seem to be going really well. Again, we just have this little hardware issue. But you want to be transparent. Explain the situation. Then, if you can get it going, fine. But when we did our retrospective after this, we thought we probably should have held off and just rescheduled. And the reason is, when you're buying that time, it can extend a lot of time pretty quickly. I just need 2 more minutes. I just need 3 more minutes. Later on, the customer told us he knew something had gone wrong, but this was like the 4th sprint. He knew it was going pretty well, so he wasn't too panicked. That's not always going to be the case. This is one also where you really want to do your next sprint is going to have to be readjusted. You haven't started that yet. Your backlog refinement is going to be, if it's especially on the critical path, take this thing and get it at the beginning of the next sprint and try to get it in front of the customer in working condition as quickly as you can. It's everybody was a little upset about this. This is going to happen to you if you do it long enough. And if you're in a big company, it's with huge resources, it's less likely to happen. There can be a little more structure. But if you're in a company, this is a $20-30 million company. This was the initial project was $200,000 or $300,000. And if you're sitting at Amazon right now, it's not that big. Hey, it is for you too. If you don't start watching those little dollars, they do and will turn into big dollars. So all projects are important, and all budgets are the same. You were given a budget because this is what your customer thought we should spend on this. It's fleshed out during the business analysis. So if it's on that critical path, the big question comes, is it okay to adjust your sprint entirely and say, we are just going to do a 1-week sprint? Yes, that's fine. In fact, you'll end up with a much better product at the end. If you've got some written rule that says we have to do 3-week sprints, we have to do the backlog this way. If it's at the sprint review, yes, it goes to the beginning of the next sprint, but we still do the No. That's not real in mid-market businesses. It's still, you want to do it in the same way, but if you're adhering to these rules when you have this sprint review disaster, you're not really doing agile anymore. You're not doing waterfall, but you're doing this structured thing where your agile has now become its own type of waterfall. We always do it this way. You're paying your project managers, you're paying your programmers, developers, because they're smart people. Listen to them and listen to the testers. They are the closest to the information. They should be making the decision. Okay, so what if it's not in a critical path? Then you should still work with the customer and say, we've got this, we know it, but we wanted to start off the next sprint with something else. Can we move this to the end of the sprint after that, or do you want to see it now? You still have to work with your customer, keep them happy. In the middle of it, again, you're going to have to stop and think. So step one in this case study was see if you can get the problem resolved. Well, you're in a time crunch here. So when you're making fast decisions, generally you're not making good decisions. What you want to do here, I've gone to the point that I thought we should have called this sprint review off. Move this to the beginning of the next sprint, do a 1 week sprint, and get back on track as quickly as possible. There's another reason for this. That's number one. Get it off of the disaster path. When it's going bad and you don't know why, you're on a glide path to disaster. Get it up, leveled out, smoothed over again. Because a lot of times this could be just a hardware issue. Second, still do your sprint retrospective. This is another mistake we kind of made. We hustled through our sprint retrospective. And what had happened here is the sprint review failed, quick sprint retrospective just to check the box, back to the next sprint the next day. We should have taken more time on that retrospective, and everybody would have thought it was a waste of a couple hours. We already knew what happened, and we did, but it's not a waste. This is an opportunity to show your team that you really trust them, and that they are really good at what they do. But gosh, we can't get too ahead of ourselves because there are little things out of our control. That's what I said. This was in their control. That's okay too. You don't want to browbeat them or anything like that. So step one, be transparent. Stop the review as quickly as possible. You might have gotten it fixed. You may have been 30 seconds away, but you don't know that. Two, do your sprint retrospective properly, the way you always have, and work through that not as a failure, but as we were so successful, we thought everything was rainbows and unicorns. There's going to be little issues that pop up. We can't do that again. Last minute changes, no matter how valuable they are, can always be put off. People get impatient. They want to show this great work they've done. Hey, it may have been even better work had we waited until the next sprint. Third, if it is on the critical path, readjust, not the sprint you're in, your next sprint. If it's all lined out, you're supposed to start in 3-4 days, and it's a 3-week sprint, shift that back a week, put this one in the middle of it. That week of lost time is not lost. If you take something on the critical path and put it at the end or put it in the middle of other things, it gets lost. Pardon me. It becomes, you're brushing it over. You're sweeping it under the rug a little bit, that something went wrong, and all this work that built up to this gets lost. There's nothing wrong with doing the 1 week sprint and changing your sprint timing. That's what Agile is. Finally, and this is kind of what I said in the sprint retrospective, but when the sprint reviews go wrong, this goes up to product owner and project manager more, but the Scrum Master should be involved in this too. You guys need to take a minute and make sure everybody's on the same page, that we're not going to beat the hell out of our team over this. You'll poison the environment, you'll cause contention, and things will go south. You'll go from forming, norming, storming, or forming, storming, norming. You'll iterate back and you'll have a stormy department again. You don't want that. I beat on this probably a little too much. Some of you watch some of these videos. I hate contention in a department. There's too many ways to avoid that and soften that, and it's a poison for your entire department, and it'll flutter out throughout the organization if you let that continue. So that's it. I hope this was a good enough case study. I try to keep these to 10 minutes. I know we could have gone into this one for 30, 40 minutes, but you guys are busy. So quick recap. When it goes bad, transparency. Stop it where you are and reschedule. Then be agile. Be agile. Review backlog refinement, if it was already done for the next sprint, that's what it's there for. Shorten that sprint to a week. If there's other things you can do in there, that's fine. Keep it for a week. Get this back in front of the customer if it's on the critical path. That's what they're paying you for. I hope you like this one. More case studies coming up. The next one is what I think is one of the roughest out there. Sometimes you can do a project perfectly. It still doesn't work. It's still not going to get implemented. That's an ugly one. Thanks again for watching.